before we begin answering the questions from the public, and this is the moment we had mentioned before, we are going to invite questions from the floor. You can see right now a microphone is being set up. We have been encouraging people to send us questions via email, Twitter. We are receiving those as we speak. I would like to invite the bosses back on stage in case you have, and I imagine you will, perhaps some questions for them. Okay. Let's start, actually, we've got, as I mentioned, we've got some questions that are coming in via email. So Anna Maria, we've got one for you. I'm trying to see where this one came from. So anyway, it is, what is the most fascinating interview, Anna Maria, you have done in the past 6 months?
Oh, Malala Yousafzai.
Oh, yeah.
That's like, you know, every once in a while you meet someone, I'm so lucky to meet so many people, but who just seems to be on another level. And I didn't know, we had heard about her, we'd actually put tape of her on the air before she was shot. And then, you know, before I read the book, I was wondering, okay, what's she like? Then I read the book, and it's a very, like, true to her voice book. It's an amazing story. And, you know, she has a dad who's very much advocating for all of this education, and you know, some call him a stage dad, but she also has a mind of her own. And after finishing talking to her, I really understood that. And when the cameras stopped rolling and we turned off the mics, I said to her, you know, Malala, I wonder if, you know, because she's a kid from the Swat Valley, remember, like this is very far away from the rest of the world. And I said, I wonder if, even if your father hadn't been such an advocate for education, even if you hadn't been so outspoken and this hadn't happened to you, that somewhere in your life you might have punched through and made a difference. And she looked at me, she's just a tiny little thing, she looks at me and she goes, perhaps when I was older. An amazing young woman, just amazing.
Avant de continuer un peu plus loin, il faut quand même rappeler que pour transmettre toute question relative à ce que vous venez d'entendre, que ce soit l'intention d'Hubert, de Rémi, de Suzanne, de nos panélistes, de nos personnalités CBC Radio-Canada, vous pouvez compléter la section à cet effet au bas de votre écran. Vous pouvez aussi nous transmettre vos questions par Twitter au mot-clic RCAPA et hashtag CBCAPM. En anglais. On va prendre également les questions soumises déjà par vidéo.
Of course, we did want to invite people to ask questions, and I can see that people are already lining up. That's fantastic. We may not be able to answer all the questions. We'll do our best to do that with the time that we have. We will answers to the most frequently asked questions will be posted on our corporate website later. You've got another email question.
Pour Rebecca, alors voici la question. Rebecca, on vous voit sur un certain nombre de plateformes. On dirait que c'est la voie de l'avenir. Est-ce que c'est par choix ou est-ce qu'on vous l'a demandé? Est-ce réaliste de penser que tous les journalistes peuvent être aussi bons sur toutes les plateformes?
Was I chosen to be the voice of the future? You back?
Tantôt que tu étais la personne
la plus multiplateforme. Merci d'abord à la personne qui a posé une question. J'avais tellement peur d'être ignorée. Non, c'est une blague. Je dirais que c'est un concours de circonstances. En fait, moi, quand j'ai commencé à étudier le journalisme, j'ai un bac en journalisme à Concordia. Je voulais faire de la télé ou de la presse écrite. La radio, ça ne m'intéressait pas du tout. J'ai peut-être un peu honte de le dire maintenant. Ouais, je sais, c'est ridicule, mais je trouvais que c'était un peu ennuyant. Puis je trouvais comment on peut, en fait, raconter une histoire sans images. Écoutez, pessimiste. But I was young, right? I was young. I was just getting into university. Et là, j'ai commencé à travailler à la Gazette. Ensuite, je suis plus une fille de télé, en fait. Et c'est arrivé par un concours de circonstances. Quand j'ai commencé à animer Studio 12 il y a 4 ans, c'était vraiment une idée de la direction. OK, on va faire une émission multiplateforme. Ça va être diffusé à la télé. Le lendemain de la diffusion, ça va être disponible sur le web. Et c'est une émission dont la création était assurée. C'est une émission qui a été créée, en fait, à la radio. Donc là, je me suis retrouvée un peu partout. Puis aussi, j'ai beaucoup parlé de défis générationnels. J'ai l'âge que j'ai. Donc moi, je suis arrivée... pour moi, la radio, le 75e anniversaire, on parlait de nostalgie un petit peu plus tôt. Moi, je ne suis pas nostalgique par rapport à la radio. Je suis nostalgique par rapport à la télé parce que j'ai l'âge que j'ai. Et c'est arrivé comme ça. Je suis arrivée en même temps que Twitter. Je ne suis pas du tout Facebook, mais je suis très Twitter. Puis ça fait en sorte que quand j'anime, soit à la télévision ou à la radio, je m'arrange pour tweeter dans les pauses, à la télé, en direct. Des fois, ça impressionne les gens. Mais voyons donc, t'as pas du contenu. Mais Girls can multitask also. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Mais je trouve que maintenant, quand on est journaliste, hey girls, maintenant quand on est journaliste, on n'a pas le choix en fait. Il faut s'assurer, peut-être pas d'être expert, mais d'essayer de maîtriser le plus possible, d'être multiplateforme, vraiment de pouvoir être aussi habile à la télé qu'à la radio que sur le web. C'est ce que je souhaite en tout cas aux journalistes qui sortent des universités.
You go. Wow.
Hey,
Very impressive. Okay, and I asked for your patience just for one more second. We do have video questions that were submitted, and this is one that's for Hubert, so I'd just like to throw to that video question now, please.
How come you don't have Hockey Night in Canada on cell phones available? I'd like to watch it on my smartphone.
Yeah, how come?
Yeah.
Mark, do this again. He wants to
He wants to watch Hockey Night in Canada on his smartphone, his cell phone.
Well, that's an easy one. We are actually streaming live Hockey in Canada on your computer, so you can watch us every Saturday evening. And if you go to your provider, your cell phone provider, we actually do the same thing. I think there's a paywall, though, depending on the provider, well, on all the providers, but we also do that on your cell phone. So we're happy in this first question, so it's an easy question, probably just a softball. Yeah, we do it right now.
We do it. He asked for it, boom, you delivered it like that. That's how we roll around here, people.
D'autres questions?
And on that note, let's go to the floor as everybody takes a deep breath. Yes, sir.
Broadening our conversations. CBC more than lives here. It literally saved my life one February morning when Pauline Dankin did her health report on Neurontin and Gaber Painton. My kids thank you. My wife thanks you. My community thanks you. Today back then I started the Institute for Canadian Justice. The Fifth Estate has done 2 associated pieces, and we've revealed Canada's largest governmental privacy breach in the course of doing this. You folks are beacons. You create that national dialogue, that tapestry. You are the thread to that tapestry that binds us all, and thank you so much for that. My question is this. In an emerging technologies, platforms, and demographics, and the democratic discourse considered, it is critical that online presence, the two-way conversation, is covered by the CBC Ombudsman. What good folks like I and others are finding is that when we do go online to comment, we are either being moderated to a degree that is unreasonable, or others are getting ahead of the queue and spewing all kinds of nastiness. That two-way dialogue is very, very critical to all of us, because in broadening those conversations, we have an amazing discourse. And if I may add, and end on this point, harness and enhance, as Matt said, this incredible discourse. More of these is a great way to start. And thank you, and please remember, my family thanks you so very much. Thank you.
I think, if I may, that, and it was very eloquent, thank you, that the heart of that, your question, though, was about the Ombudsman, and you're talking about just trying to, that you are being over-moderated as you try to get points to, is that the heart of your question? A yes or no would be great, just in interest of time. I'm not trying to cut you off. Thank you.
So moderation is always a question, particularly on the web. We have policies that deal with that. We try to ensure that the nastiness or the foul words are not shown. We don't post those. It's always a question of balance. When a person, let's go with the ombudsman position or the ombudsman role, when the ombudsman, when a person is not happy with the way we treated the story or what, as you know, you have the right to complain. The news department reacts to it. When you're still unhappy with the reaction or the answer of the news department, then you have obviously a right to the ombudsman. The ombudsman is a position that reports directly to me. We take great pride in the work of the ombudsman because they are the conscience of the corporation. They also are a great way to show our transparency and our accountability. So yes, we understand moderation is always in the eye of the person that wanted the post and got his or her post deleted. We have policies for that. It's a constant conversation, and they will evolve as we see these mediums change.
Merci, Hubert. And in the spirit of moderation and just out of respect for people here, let's try to keep questions as brief as we can so that we can try to broaden our platform here to get more questions from the floor. So, sir, over to you.
Thank you very much. My name's Philip Savage, and I teach at McMaster University, where we have a new, I was going to say CBC radio station. We don't have any radio. That's another matter that we can investigate some other time, I hope. I want to thank you for having such a meeting and for, as Matt has mentioned and Hubert has mentioned, being so transparent. Your competitor down the road, Bell Media, doesn't have such events. In fact, rather than gathering questions from its users, it seems to be gathering information against our will. So I hope at some point Bell will also address some of these questions. My question is about Radio 2 and advertising. Matt said, we do what we do because we're not just sending people to advertisers. He used to work on Radio 2 a little bit. He doesn't work on Radio 2 anymore. In the interest of transparency, the CRTC has asked the CBC, first of all, to limit its advertising on Radio 2 beyond what it, or well below what it had actually planned. It also suggested that within 3 years you report on the impact on programming and the actual financials. In the interest of transparency, Monsieur Lacroix, and also our CFO sitting up here, would you be willing to have a public audited statement about the amount of revenue that is being generated through advertising on Radio 2? I won't speak to Espace Musique, perhaps for Espace Musique as well, that is made available at this public meeting in terms of the actual monies generated and also the cost of generating those revenues. Would you pledge to do that at the next annual public meeting? Thank you.
There's a lot in your question. Let me try to do this, and if Suzanne thinks I've forgotten something, she can chime in. We actually told the CRTC how many dollars we wanted. We wanted 8 minutes of advertising. We're just about gradually getting to 8 minutes. That would have given us about $20 million of contribution, between 20 and just a little more than 20. We got 4 minutes, so you can do the math. You can do the math. It's going to generate about $10 million, let's say between $7 or $10 million, a little less in the first year because we're late in starting it. It took us some time. We thought that the decision was going to come earlier. All that to say, we're looking at, or let's say around $10 million on a cruising speed, out of a $20 million target, 4 minutes an hour. We've started the ads on radio right now. And frankly, the tolerance and the engagement and the comments from the listening public has been okay.
And let me follow.
Say to Prime Minister Harper, you didn't answer the question. Will you provide on a yearly basis back to this public meeting an audited statement of the revenues you're generating through Radio 2 advertising?
Don't audit, sir, we'd be happy to give you the numbers. We don't audit particular streams of revenues. We have a $1.7 billion corporation. We have audited financial statements. We have quarterly MD&As. I'd be happy to, if you come back and you ask the question every year, I'll give you where we are with respect to the plan. And we actually report that to the CRTC. So there's no hiding this number. It's a contribution.
Reported after 3 years, but will you be reporting it on a yearly basis to the public, including the
progress
cost
of that? Sure. Again, there's no hiding of this number. We asked Radio 2 and Espace Musique to contribute to the challenges that we have on a financial level, and that's the plan.
And including the cost.
Sir, we've got a lot of questions. Just in fairness here, we've got a lot of questions. Another one that's coming on this, and while we're on the topic, this is from John Burkham in Montreal to Hubert. Will you guarantee there will never be advertising on CBC Radio 1 and Première Chaîne?
Did you guys ask the question, or did it come actually from somebody in Montreal? Is it your brother or your sister or your friend?
Yeah, it's John Burkham in air quotes, also known as Steve Patterson.
We told the CRTC there's no ads coming on Radio 1 sur notre radio parlée pour exactement les raisons que Jean-Sébastien a discuté il y a quelques minutes. Parce que la richesse du contenu de la langue de notre radio parlée est différente. Il faut que cette relation-là continue. Et c'est pour ça qu'on a choisi de le faire sur nos 2 radios musicales, différents environnements. On n'a aucune intention d'avoir de la publicité sur les ondes de ici Radio-Canada Première ou de Radio One.
Steve, a question to you from Jason in Edmonton. Comedy can be a very visual art, so why do you think a show like The Debaters works just as well in front of a live audience as it does on the radio?
Well, Hubert's been to tapings. It's actually a little spicier in front of the live audience than makes it to the radio. But we keep as much as we can. But it's a great event to come out to. That's what we've made it, is an event to come out to the taping of. And that probably didn't answer the question.
It didn't.
Just practicing for being a politician. I have to do the play-by-play, so it's taught me a different muscle of actually having to sort of explain the visuals of comedy and add little nuances with words, and it's actually made me a better comic for it. So.
And sometimes you feel you have to cut people off?
Sometimes
Thanks, Steve.
I do
That's
feel,
good.
Oh,
okay,
Kelly!
so
Kelly!
let's go to this young lady on the floor.
Just 1 sec. I want to say something about the debaters. Yes, I've been to a number of tapings, and it is true. The subject matters that are presented for debate actually come from what was in the paper last week. They give it a twist, but there's a true or false. There's does it make sense or not? And when they went to Bishops, there was a very important conversation about French and about French in Canada and some of the challenges that were going there. And it was debated in a very funny way, but the substance was extremely serious and well chosen.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes. Thank you.
Please.
Hi, my name's Katie. I'm a 4th-year RTA Radio and Television Arts student at Ryerson, hoping to one day end up here. My question for you is, as an advocate of getting people in my generation to listen to public radio, listen to the music that we play, just because everything here is so great, what do you guys plan on doing to attract a younger audience? Because sometimes it does seem like the senior network.
Ouch. Give it to Rebecca. She's young.
This is.
This is the face of it. J'allais répondre en anglais. Do you want me to answer? Maybe it's easier if I answer in English because you don't have your. I was going to say it comes down to a lot of the hosts are doing their own thing. I keep talking about Twitter, and I guess by now you're fed up of it. But to me, it really helped in, I think, you know how artists, they go on the road and they say, I gained my public 1 person at a time. I went on the road and I played my songs all across the country. And I really have a feeling that that's what I'm doing. Every day somebody on Twitter says, I didn't even know you were on the radio. I remember you from that TV show. Since when have you been on? Since about a year and a half. Wow, this is cool. And it's like one person will tell another person, will tell another person, will tell another person. I also think that the CBC has to understand that it will need to, I guess, revitalize also their hosts. Because at some point, all the hosts that like, let's say, how can I say, oh man, I'm treading on thin water. You understand what I'm saying? Non, mais il y a une nouvelle génération d'animateurs, évidemment, people like you here one day are going to be standing here, and at some point, we're going to be, dead. So that's well said, isn't it?
It's that classic French romanticism we've been doing. I thought it was l'amour, not l'amour. Get it? It's love and death.
It's so funny. No, it's also your job to go and there you go.
Okay, so she passed it over to me. Let me help you also with this conversation because, are you happy that I did? Strategic planning. Our chairman, in his opening remarks, alluded to it. It's a very, very important part of what we're doing right now. We're in the middle of something called Strategy 2015, which obviously, because of its name, lands in 2015. But at one point in time, we are not going to stop and then say, all right, what's next? We are deep into the beyond 2015 strategic direction of the CBC and Radio-Canada. One of the things that we're looking at is obviously the 18 to 34 crowd, where I think that we have a blind spot. We need to better understand that those listeners, what they do, their consumption habits, and we're working very hard at it. So
and how to reach them.
And obviously, and how to reach them. we don't have the dollars to create the platforms, but we want to be on those platforms, so partnerships are very important in our lives. So the reach and trying to be relevant for you in the 18 to 34 range is much more than simply trying to figure out a particular program. It's about how can we create, and here we go again, this one-on-one relationship with you, so that it might not start with a television program. It might not come from listening to one of the podcasts. It might actually be you finding out on YouTube of a podcast of a cue. Let's say you watch Gian on YouTube, and then all of a sudden you said, that's interesting, and then you're going to find another way into the website, and then you're going to find something else about CBC Radio Canada. So this is our challenge.
It's pretty much what I said. Right?
You know, Hubert, and you mentioned that there's something ubiquitous about Gian Gomeshi. He's on TV, he's on radio. It's almost like he's in this room now. Welcome, Gian. Okay, so we have, I hate to be the timekeeper, but that is part of my job here. We've got about 4 minutes left. We're going to try to squeeze in a few more questions. Why don't we, I know we've got some online, but sir, you're being patient, so let's take a question,
My
please.
name is Clinton Green. Mine is a panel. Mine is a statement, not a question.
A short one, I hope.
We're showing you the power of radio and freedom of listeners. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Matthew. Happy birthday to you.
Amazing voice.
I love that.
That was easy.
Great
That
thing
was,
about
yeah.
radio is people can't see you when you blush. Thank you, sir.
It was very generous, and you've got great pipes, too.
Oh, yeah.
You may want to drop off a CV on your way out here. This is radio. Okay, let's quickly take one from online here. Arzu Suleiman. This is who sent this, and it's for Matt, the birthday boy. What are the characteristics of a good radio host?
The characteristics of a good radio host?
Correct.
Listening. I have a piece of paper that's on my desk in front of my microphone, and it says, "Stop talking." It's not always successful, but I think you have to listen, and you have to be curious, and you have to wonder if somebody is saying something, why they're saying something, and what the motivation is for them to come into a room and talk to a stranger like me, to an audience of 1 million people in a city. Why would they want to do that, and what is in it for them? And if you can listen, and if you can get at the core of what it is that they're saying, or if it's often with a politician, what they're not saying, it will transmit a lot. So for me, it's just listening.
Oh, sorry, were you saying something?
Thank you.
Sir.
Yes, my name is Saeed, and Matt was saying people listen to his show to improve their English. I would say they are at very higher level of English because there are lots of other people that I know which need much more help into getting integrated and listening to CBC as the mainstream listenership does it. So my question is why we are not using the new technology to address that segment of listeners, why we don't have a special news bulletin which is using much limited vocabulary and giving more background on the stories, why we are not talking about the Canadian culture, history on shows that are specifically produced for the newcomers.
We have Radio-Canada International, RCI, that completely revamped its presence. If you go to the website, for example, and you see we broadcast in 5 different languages, and we changed it for exactly that reason. We used to invest dollars, and yes, it came as a result of asking ourselves in the context of cuts whether Radio-Canada International was still a relevant voice out there. It was broadcasting to the world. we said, all right, let's now focus focus our attention on the people that are in Canada or wanting to come to Canada and they want to understand our country. So can I suggest that you go to Radio-Canada International, and I think that you will get a lot of what you are referring to.
Je voudrais juste ajouter quelque chose. J'ai travaillé 3 ans à Saskatchewan et j'ai été frappé par le nombre d'anglophones ou d'allophones qui écoutaient la radio française exactement pour ça, not to learn English, but pour apprendre le français. Et là aussi, on se faisait dire aussi, parler du background du Canada, de l'histoire, parler un peu plus lentement pour qu'on vous suive, mais ils nous écoutaient aussi. Puis il faut retenir aussi que la radio française, c'est pas la radio des francophones, c'est le service public de langue française de tout le monde au pays.
Je peux confirmer qu'on vit ça aussi à Toronto, avec notre radio ici à Radio-Canada. Question pour Hubert de Jean Sauvé de Windsor. Quelles sont nos garanties de voir les dirigeants de Radio-Canada protéger les intérêts des régions lorsqu'on voit clairement la montréalisation des émissions et du réseau?
Alors, la montréalisation des ondes, je viens d'entendre Rebecca dire « c'est pas vrai ça ». Je comprends très bien la perception que certaines personnes ont de ce danger-là. J'ai entendu, parce que j'ai été assis devant le CRTC pendant 2 semaines en novembre 2012, les commentaires d'un grand nombre de Canadiens sur leur désir de voir plus d'histoires à travers le Canada livrées par nos services. Il y a eu une réaction immédiate des services français sous la direction de Louis Lalande, et ce qu'on a fait, c'est, on a un téléjournal maintenant qui est à peu près 7 jours sur 7 à travers le pays. On a des émissions de variété qui montrent, un air de famille par exemple, il y a une vingtaine de familles qui sont là, ils sont de partout à travers le Canada. Alors non seulement dans les nouvelles, mais également dans les émissions de variété. Puis je vais terminer en vous disant que, par exemple, l'émission phare, l'émission de 22 heures, téléjournal de 22 heures de Céline, on a ajouté 2 journalistes, un à Edmonton et un autre à Moncton, pour encore une fois alimenter le téléjournal de 22 heures d'histoires pan-canadiennes pour connecter les gens ensemble.
Ou même Espace Musique. Il y a
Espace Musique.
Des animateurs un peu partout au pays. Justement, je parlais de Sudbury tantôt. Il y en a à Gatineau, il y en a à Vancouver, il y en a à Québec.
Ce que Rebecca dit, c'est qu'on a pris Espace Musique, qu'on l'a régionalisé pour que vous puissiez entendre à Espace Musique la réalité des différentes communautés à la radio. Jean-Sébastien?
L'heure du monde aussi.
Tu peux en parler?
L'heure du monde, c'est exactement ce qu'on cherche à faire. D'ailleurs, moi, soit dit en passant, c'est vrai, je suis à Montréal, là, mais je ne le dis jamais, parce que je ne me considère pas, moi, être un animateur de Montréal quand j'anime l'heure du monde. Moi. Je suis l'animateur du monde. Alors, moi, je ne le dis jamais. J'ai des collègues qui vont me faire un reportage à Montréal. Je vais dire, lui, il nous parlait de Montréal. Mais moi, je ne dirais pas que je suis là, parce que quand je suis à Edmonton, je suis un animateur d'Edmonton. Quand on m'écoute à Québec, je suis un animateur de Québec. Quand je suis à Chicoutimi, je suis un animateur de Chicoutimi.
Alors,
très bien.
Mais je comprends très bien les préoccupations de cette personne-là. C'est quelque chose qu'on nous a reproché pendant longtemps. Absolument. Il faut être constamment sur nos gardes pour ne pas faire en sorte que ce soit l'impression qu'on donne à la radio, à la télévision ou sur les services qu'on a.
Time is ticking. The earpiece in my ear is humming, so which means the people who are running the show are telling me. We've got one last question, and I apologize to the 2 people there from the floor. Please.
Just a comment. My name's Amanda Martinez. I'm a singer here in Toronto. Grew up with CBC, and I want to just say thank you for all the support that you give artists whose music would not necessarily be on any other station. I feel personally indebted for my career here, and I know that I wouldn't have that. And on behalf of artists, I hope you continue to promote the diverse music that we have in the city. Thank you so much.
Well, that's the mandate. When we talk about the mandate of our musical radios, the Espace Musique and the Radio 2, that's exactly what it's supposed to be.
Hubert, I'm sure I'll let you handle this one. This is from Ron Devian in Brentwood Bay, BC. Hubert, what progress is being made on the Hockey Night in Canada negotiations with Gary Bettman?
Actually, that's one for Steve.
I'll take that one.
Yes. Hockey Night in Canada, you heard Suzanne a few minutes ago, key to our brand, important. We think we connect Canadians together on Saturday nights. It's been 61 years. We've been negotiating with the NHL through the leadership of Neil McEnany and Jeffrey Orridge. Conversations are ongoing, and we hope to hear in the near future of how they will conclude.
On a le temps de prendre une question. Celle-ci de Bernard de Montréal. Elle est destinée à Jean-Sébastien. Jean-Sébastien, vous avez parlé des opportunités par rapport à l'engagement, participation dans les réseaux sociaux, du public dans vos activités de diffusion. J'aimerais vous entendre sur les risques. Donc, je comprends les risques associés à ce type de diffusion.
Bien, il y a eu des cas, tout d'abord, où on a des collègues qui ont dû faire amende honorable après s'être exprimés sur des médias sociaux. Oubliant peut-être que les médias sociaux, ben, c'est un micro, c'est une caméra, c'est une tribune publique comme n'importe où. Et je pense que, et je suis persuadé que Hubert serait d'accord et que tous les collègues ici seraient d'accord, l'un des éléments qui nous rend très, très fiers à Radio-Canada, CBC, ce sont nos normes et pratiques journalistiques. Alors, le risque pour le journaliste, c'est d'oublier, par exemple, qu'il est tenu sur les réseaux sociaux, sur Facebook, sur Twitter, au même devoir de réserve qu'il a lorsqu'il est devant une caméra ou devant un micro. Nous ne sommes pas là pour défendre un point de vue éditorial, pour défendre notre opinion personnelle quand on en a, parce que, soit dit en passant, je voudrais juste débâtir une idée où souvent, les gens disent « Comment tu fais pour cacher ton opinion? » Un animateur, souvent, là, la vie pour lui n'est faite que de teintes de gris. Et souvent, on n'a même pas d'opinion, parce qu'on entend tellement là, de versions des faits d'une même histoire et de points de vue différents qu'au fond, on est ouvert à tout, puis on oublie même qu'on a nous-mêmes à se forger une opinion. Enfin, moi, je fonctionne comme ça. Le risque aussi, je le vois sur... on peut se faire entraîner dans une escalade. On appelle ça des tweet fights. Là. Toi, mon experte en Twitter que tu es, tu sais... Non.
Oui,
tu sais,
je comprends,
tu sais que ça
absolument,
existe.
oui.
Bon, il y a le risque d'embarquer. Il faut résister à ça. Et je termine en disant... je ne suis pas encore tout à fait à l'aise, je vais vous l'avouer, avec le fait qu'on permette de commenter les textes de nouvelles constamment parce que je trouve que ça donne lieu parfois à des dérapages. Puis on essaie de modérer ça, mais parfois, qu'est-ce que vous voulez, on en échappe. Je me demande si on a besoin d'aller jusque-là. Un blog, c'est nécessaire, on veut amorcer une conversation, mais il y a des risques. Je ne peux pas résumer toutes les situations possibles.
Aussi, il y avait
une vigilance de tous les instants.
Il y avait un monsieur qui posait une question quand on passe par l'ombudsman pour faire un commentaire. Le danger avec Twitter aussi, c'est qu'on peut interpeller l'animateur directement. Ça a des super bons côtés parce qu'il y a une proximité dans la conversation. Mais quand on se fait insulter, par exemple, ou justement quand on se fait interpeller dans une tweet fight, ça peut être vraiment ça peut être très difficile.
I just got a very important tweet. #we're-done. I'd like to thank you all for your participation here.